Let's do this.
Buy what you love and love what you buy.
What's going on, everyone? MikeO back with another episode of Hobby Talk. Today I'll be joined by Mike Pasqua. We'll be chatting a little bit about the hobby. He's on YouTube, Hitman23, has a fantastic channel. Had the pleasure of meeting him at the National in Cleveland a couple months ago at this point. I had thought we would have recorded an episode by now, but it's been a while. It's time to do one. Mike, welcome to the show.
Hey, Mike, how you doing, sir? Now, I just wanted to thank you for inviting me onto your podcast. I was really excited when you reached out to me last week, and I really appreciate the reach out to me, man.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm just sorry we didn't do one earlier. I'm sorry I didn't get one out earlier. It just it's one of those things that I kind of mentioned early on. I'm like, all right, I want to try and do this like twice a month. And
it's all good, Dan.
At the very least, like once a month, and now it's been a couple months. So
like once a quarter.
The plans. Well, there were plans to do one potentially at the National, and then there was plans to do one right after the National. And things come up, you get busy. The National's very hectic, so things got delayed. But at this point, I'm just happy to do one, and I think it's time to start chatting about the hobby, talk a little bit about, what we collect, what we're thinking about collecting right now, maybe where collections are going, what your focus is, just whatever.
Sure.
I know, Mike, you one of the things that you enjoy collecting are the Rookie Cup cards from Topps.
Oh, yeah.
A tradition that they've carried on for years, and it's something I always noticed growing up, and I always liked that, but I never really thought of it as a potential collecting focus until you brought it up at one point. And I think that's something, just a little thing you can learn in the hobby. So tell us a little bit about the Rookie Cup sets, and I know you've got, do you have the entire run of them?
Not quite yet, Mike. It's still a I call it a lifetime project, because some of the earlier ones are tough. You've got some pretty big names in the 60s. So you got Willie McCovey's rookie card, which is the first actual Rookie Cup card in the 60 top set. So, stuff like that. Ron Santo. You've got Joe Torre in the 62 set. So there's some high dollar cards in the set that now that's where I'm pretty much at, is now starting to try to pinpoint those. But how I got started on it was, and I believe I may have mentioned this on one of my other videos at one time, is the very first baseball card I ever laid eyes on in my life, a live baseball card, was the 1976 Topps Freddie Lynn card. And as a 6 or 7 year old kid, my uncle had been working at a school in New York City, and he got this bag of baseball cards. I remember it. He brought home this bag, a brown paper bag full of baseball cards, and he gave it to me. And the first card on top was that Fred Lynn card, and I saw it, and it just struck me very, very strongly. I thought it looked just so cool. He was batting, and just kind of had that raw, dark look to it. And I just thought it was really cool looking. And that little Rookie Cup, there was something about it that was just very appealing. And I didn't really collect much after that. I can't even say I was collecting at that point, because I was like 7 years old. So I was accumulating and putting them in bags in a drawer in the kitchen. So I didn't really start until 81 or 82, really into collecting. And by that time, Topps had stopped using the Rookie Cups on the cards. So I hadn't seen Rookie Cups since the late 70s, I believe. 78 was the last time they had them on the cards. And not until 1987, when I busted those beautiful wax packs, and I was thumbing through, and I found Jose Canseco's card with that Rookie Cup. I was like, oh my God, they're back! Holy good Lord! I was like stoked. And I remember an issue. Do you remember Baseball Card magazine back in the 80s? It was just called Baseball Cards, I believe.
I think I remember seeing some of them. Didn't have it regularly, but I think someone handed it down to me or given to me at some point by someone.
Yeah, it was definitely a big thing in the 80s. It was definitely prior to Beckett and Tough Stuff. it was a way to order cards through. It was a lot of mail order stuff, a lot of just articles about baseball cards and collecting. And I remember in one of the issues, I can't remember the year, but it was definitely after '87 when the Rookie Cups came back out again, and they did a feature story on the Topps Rookie Cup subset. And luckily I had that issue, and from that point on was when I said I'm collecting this entire set. That's it, and that's how kind of it started, and it's been going ever since, man. It's been going ever since.
Yeah, and the Rookie Cups are cool, and the way you described it is kind of, I feel like that's a way a lot of people get into the hobby. You have something that strikes you that you find neat, that you like and you enjoy, and then maybe you take a break at some point, but when you come back to it, it's sort of the nostalgic feeling that brings you back to it.
Yes.
Boom, you see that Rookie Cup again in the late 80s in 87, and you're brought back to that memory. And
absolutely.
I think nostalgia it's a huge point in kind of everything, and collectibles specifically, and that definitely, you see that in the toy market and and so many other focuses of different collection outside of sports cards and baseball cards.
Absolutely.
But it's definitely a huge part of baseball cards. I mean, people enjoy collecting players they grew up watching. People enjoy collecting players that their parents watched, that they kind of told stories about. And, going back to old cards, I mean, that's why you see a lot of focus from Topps in a lot of their products. Topps Heritage, Topps Archives, because you're bringing back memories to different generations of collectors. So
absolutely,
I think nostalgia is a huge thing, and I think that's part of kind of what you were describing with those Rookie Cups.
Yeah, and in terms of how I collect, and again, I'm not trying to be idealistic here. I truly do collect because the biggest reason is for this nostalgia. I've been doing it for such a long time, and yes, I think like most people, we've had our peaks and valleys in our collecting lives, where there's been years where I didn't really collect, but I've always gone back to baseball, and I know it'll be something I do till I cease being on the earth. It's just it means that much to me. So yeah, first and foremost, it's definitely that nostalgic draw that brings me to it, and that's why I love it so much, man. It's absolutely the case. Absolutely.
And I think another thing with the Rookie Cups, it's kind of cool, just talking specifically about the Rookie Cups, because that's what we're talking about.
Absolutely.
Is I think something else that's neat about it is the fact that they've been doing it year after year for at this point, 30 years?
Yes,
and
it's 87.
And there's history before that. And so you have something to look forward to every year. Now when 2019 Topps comes out in a few months, boom, there's some more stuff you can grab, add to the collection. And it's also neat because it kind of cements parts of baseball history. And some of these players become very significant, and other players fade off and they're not significant, but they did make some sort of impact in the sport of baseball to be labeled with the Rookie Cup. I think usually they announce it sometime in the off season, like the Topps All Rookie Team or something.
Yes.
And that's who they use. So I always think that's something that's kind of neat. It's something that signifies an impact that a player had on the sport, on the hobby. And, there's someone everywhere for everyone. And that applies to the hobby. I mean, you have people who collect all players. There might be some players who only receive a handful of baseball cards during their career, but there's someone who collects them. Now, there might be far less people who collect Tommy Joseph cards than there are that collect Mike Trout cards, but, there's someone out there who collects the Tommy Joseph cards, so I think that's pretty neat. I think that's something, it's just another layer, something that some people may not necessarily think about all the time, but if you stop to think about the hobby, if you kind of think about the cards themselves, there's just a lot of layers to it.
There's tons, and that's, again, what makes the hobby so special, because there is no, there's no book on collecting and saying, when you read this book, this is how you're supposed to collect. So that's what makes it special, man. That's what I think what brings a lot of people into it and what keeps people into it. So, but I always ask myself, why did Topps not do Rookie Cup cards in certain years? And I never was able to find the answer to that, like why they stopped. It was to me seemed very random. And you would think that they would want to call those things out since it was the Topps All-Star Rookie Team. They did the All-Star Rookie Teams between, 79 and 86. They had the teams named, but they just never put the trophies on the cards, which is a mystery. I just never understood that. I could still picture, I could see, the 1986 Vince Coleman card. I could see where the trophy could be on that card, and it drives me crazy that it's not.
It's a shame they didn't do that, but...
Yeah, it's weird. It's just strange how they choose to do. And again, another weird one is 74. They didn't do them on 74 Topps. Again, I don't know why. They changed the trophy from 72. That was the last year of the big trophy got with the guy on top. And then in 73 they went to the little cup. And then 74 they had none. And then 75 they picked up with the cup, and that's what they pretty much have gone with ever since. Except now on the Heritage, they do go back and use the trophy guy, because that's what was on those cards when those cards are out. So, but it's just there's some mysterious things about it that I still to this day ask why they skipped it. So,
do you do the Heritage cards as well, along with the base Topps, the Heritage Rookie Cups?
Of course I do. Because you got to have them all, Mike. You got to have them all.
Rookie Cup Super Collector.
Oh yeah, yeah. Absolutely. I think they look absolutely gorgeous. I love the big trophy, the one with the guy on top. I think it's just spectacular looking. And just think about Pete Rose's 64 Topps card with his face there, and that guy on the trophy there. It's just unbelievably awesome.
Yeah, and it's just so neat. And there's so many things to collect in this hobby, and you kind of mentioned it. There's no rules. There's no outline that says this is how you have to collect. I mean, I was thinking about it earlier today. You have people who just break stuff and they chase hits, and you have people who collect rookies, and you have people who collect pre-war, people who collect vintage, people who collect modern, people who just want the hot guys, people who prospect actual prospects who are in single A, people who prospect rookie and young players who they think are going to excel at some point, the set registries, the grading.
Yep.
There's just an absolute array of stuff. Obviously, you have so many sports, and entertainment now is big in the card collecting community. And there's just so much. But I know one thing that you like, I enjoy it as well, are binders. Binders are a fantastic way to display your cards. It's a great way to go through and enjoy them. I'm not someone who's going to keep everything in a binder, but
you can't.
I always think to myself, I have a few binders, and then that turns into 24 pretty quickly.
Amen.
For me, I have some Phillies binders. I have some specific player binders. I have a few sets, not too many. And I know, I'm pretty certain you keep these rookie cups in a binder, correct?
They're in a binder, brother. They're in a binder. I do not have any rookie cup cards graded. They are all in binders, or all in a binder. And that's how I'm going to roll with it. I had toyed with the idea of doing a separate registry, the Rookie Cup registry, because there is a Rookie Cup registry, and I'm just like, am I that stupid? Because there comes a point where it's like there's other stuff I collect too, and I want to be able to focus on that as well. So it's not my only focus; it's one of my main focuses. Next to Don Mattingly, I would say my two focuses are the Rookie Cups and then Don Mattingly, and then everything else kind of falls in behind that. I mean, I just have tons of stuff that I enjoy. So, but yeah, the binders is how I do it. I kind of laughed. I think I'd made this comment on one of my more recent videos where I said I'm kind of like you could tell by my collection what era I collected in, because I'm a binder guy, and that's in the 80s. That really was the way you collected. You got cards, you put them in sheets, and you looked at them. If you went into a card store in the 80s, you didn't really have boxes to thumb through, and dollar boxes and dime boxes. If you wanted cards, they were in binders, and usually they were done by player or done by set. And you'd ask, hey, can I have the 75 Topps binder because I need a couple of cards for my set, or can I have the Dwight Gooden binder because I want the Dwight Gooden. So I kind of my collection is like an old LCS. Binders everywhere, Like Pepino, he's got all the sets in a binder, and I think it's great. I could never do it because I just don't have the space for it. That's the other if you look at a problem of a binder, it takes up a ton of room, and I just don't have it. And so I'm picky and choosy with what sets I put in binders. I try to pick the sets that I think look really nice or have some sort of special meaning to me. I'll keep them in binders. Otherwise, sets I complete, I keep in their boxes.
Yeah, and, I haven't done many sets in binders. Yeah, I have the 89 top set just because that's one of the first sets I ever collected.
See, there you go.
But
that's key.
Outside of that, for current year stuff, I'll break stuff, and I usually go through and I'll pick anywhere from 9 to, whatever.
Multiples of 9.
Well, of course. I want to say 9 to 27. It depends on the product. Yes. Obviously, some products are only 100 cards. Tops, I do a little more.
Sure.
And, I might do 9 pages of them. But I'll just go through and I'll pick out either players I like or just cards that look cool. And, you just fill that binder from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. It's like, all right, well, these are some of the products I broke. And you can just flip through and have fun. And they look awesome. They're cool. Obviously, I do some of the Phillies binders and stuff because, you talk about space and binders take up space for sure. But if you take, X number of cards and just load them on top loaders, that takes up space as well.
That does, absolutely. And just to say about Phillies binders, we're still waiting on that binder reveal, brother. We're still waiting on that binder reveal.
We'll get it up soon. That was a goal of potentially the last 2 days, but that didn't happen. But we'll see.
You've been working your butt off the last couple of days, man.
I'm thinking hopefully next week. I'm looking at 2 potential days. That's how bad it is that I'm like, because it's the type of thing I want to do, right? And I know it's not going to be short. It's not going to be 5 minutes. I could do that in 10 seconds, but
no, you don't want to.
But I did finally, what you're referencing for people who don't know, I did finally at the National this year complete my Phillies Ultimate Team Set is what I call it, and it's every Topps base card with the Philadelphia Philly from 1951 through this current year. I'll be adding to it shortly. Another month and a half. Topps update will come out, so we should get another 5 to 10 cards in that. So it's something that at some point just struck me, and I said to myself, I'm like, why don't I have this? Why don't I do this? Why wouldn't I do this? Why wouldn't anyone do this?
Absolutely.
It's a team that you love, you follow, you grew up with. It's attainable. Now, if you're a Yankees fan like you are,
we're screwed. We're absolutely screwed.
If you hit the lottery, you can do it. Otherwise, you're going to be in trouble. But most teams,
I do it.
I think most teams are very attainable. I think the Phillies are one of the historic teams. Obviously, there's other historic teams as well that have been around since the beginning. If you're a fan of a team that wasn't even around the 50s and 60s, I mean, you should be able to complete that pretty quickly because they're not. Most stuff isn't that pricey.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's just cool. For me, it's the evolution of the Topps product and baseball cards from 51. You see the designs change through the years and the decades. It's the evolution and the history of a franchise, and you see the players come and go. I mean, again, I talked about layers before, and it's layers to the set. For me, it's historical to look at the 50s and the 60s.
Yes.
And then you look at the 70s, and you start to see these players that, wound up being that I've heard about growing up that were on the 1980 World Champions team. And then you get into the mid 80s and the late 80s, the players that I started to watch, and that's where it gets real nostalgic. And you're sitting there looking at Von Hayes going, man, I can remember loving Von Hayes.
Hayes.
And then you roll into the Darren Dalton era in the 90s and the 93 Phillies, which was one of the pinnacle years of my childhood growing up.
Oh, yeah.
And then you get into those lean years in the late 90s. You're like, holy Lord, this team was awful. They stunk so bad. And then you get into the 2000s, and then you see the evolution of the team that would become the 2008 World Champions, and all those players come. And, well, then you get past that World Championship team. You get to the 2010, 2011 year. You start to 2012. You start to go, wow, Ty Wigginton was on the Phillies. Forgot about that one. But now you start to see things kind of building up again. But it's just really cool. It's really fun. And
absolutely.
At some point, I certainly will have a video up on the YouTube channel, MikeO YouTube channel. So that'll be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to doing that. But that's just another example of how binders are great. Because I'm a guy who loves slabbed cards. I love PSA graded cards. I like the challenge of getting cards graded. I like the look of them. I like collecting them, but I respect and I love the binders as well because they're every bit as awesome as slabbed cards. It's just it's something different and it's awesome.
Amen, man. Amen. And I just your Phillies project, dude. That's an undertaking. You should be very proud of that. That's something that takes doesn't take 5 days to do. That's a long project. Like the Rookie Cup project. It's for me the lifetime thing. I don't know about that, but it's going to take a while to get it done. And luckily you completed yours. But I just think it's a great undertaking, and it's if you're like you said, if you're a fan of a team, it's a great way to show the history of that team throughout the years. And I think it's a great thing that you did there, man. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun for sure.
Yeah.
So next thing I wanted to touch on real quick was,
yes.
We've been talking about the different layers to collecting and different collectors, and everyone collects different stuff. And I know talking to you in the past, you kind of referenced yourself as a budget collector. You're not someone who chases the crazy hits, the $500 cards to $300 cards. But, that doesn't mean that you can't have fun with the hobby and that you can't build an incredible collection. I mean,
absolutely.
There's just, again, there's so much to be found, and there's so many layers and so many reasons to love the hobby.
And I think, we had talked before we went on air about that. And I told you that the most I ever spent on one card, and I can tell you what card it was a graded card. It was a 1994 Joe Montana Topps card, which is very hard to get graded. And I picked one up in a Gem Mint 10. It was about $80 at the time. It was about 2 years ago when I got it. That was the most I'd ever spent on one single card in my life. Not to say that I would never spend more on a card. I will eventually. It's just I collect so much, and I do so much. My collecting habits are kind of I don't want to say haphazard, but like I'm a fly by the seat of my pants guy, and when I see something, if I like it, I'm gonna buy it, and if it causes me to put something else in the back burner for a while, I'm okay with that. So eventually I will be picking up, more expensive cards, but it's not like I have to go spend all this, this special or this specific amount of money on a certain card. And I don't get too into, I don't bust I bust a lot of product, but I don't think I bust a ton of product. I'm not chasing hits. Again, I'll go back to the old school way of the way I collect. I love building sets. And how I did it, and how you could only do it as a kid, especially before the mail order days, was you had to buy packs and build the set by hand. And that's just how I love to collect. I love to build sets by hand. Yes, and I've bought completed sets before, and I have no problem with that. But I just love that thrill of opening those cards and just seeing them for the first time and making the checklist, writing all the names and numbers down and saying, I need, these 30 cards and then these 2 cards. And that's just to me, that's what makes it fun. So that's another big part of what I do. So yeah, I definitely would say, I'm definitely more toward the budget side of collecting. And I think you can find some amazing cards. Like for example, at the National, I spent a lot of time at the, quarter and 50-cent boxes, and I found some beautiful cards from my collection. Just beautiful cards I love to have in my collection. And there are deals out there. If you look, they're there. So you got these companies that buy tons of product and open them, and they don't even know what they have sometimes. They just throw them in the box, especially at a show, and they're just selling them for, they just want to get rid of them. And you can get some really good stuff for really short money. So you don't have to spend a ton of money to have, like you said, a nice collection. Absolutely not.
Yeah, and I think just to touch on your point of breaking wax, I think sometimes breaking wax can get a bad reputation. I think a lot of people. So the trend in the hobby right now, especially among young people, is the focus on hits.
Yes,
and that's what people are looking for. They'll literally rip stuff open and just fly through, and they just look for the relic card that was worn during a photo shoot for 6 seconds. with the autograph sticker on it and all that. And you know what? If you like that, that's great. That's fine.
Yep.
But there's something to be said, and it's product to product, right? You know, you have products that come out that are $1,000 a box, that are $500 a box, that are $150 a box, and there's stuff that's $40 and $50 a box, way cheaper. And then you have even blasters and whatever. There's a lot of options, and you got to know what you're opening.
Yes.
If you're the higher end the product, usually the bigger chance it is. I mean, you can easily buy a $150 box of cards and get $8 worth of stuff.
Right.
But the stuff that you tend to collect, I'm talking about what I've seen you specifically, Topps Heritage and Archive, some of that stuff, even basic Topps. There's really more value than I think a lot of people realize in breaking it. Obviously, the entertainment of getting possibly a big hit in an autograph, because you get some sort of hit in most products now.
Yeah.
You'll get something. But that's not necessarily what you're chasing. But the rookies you can get, the fact that you could get cards graded, I know you're not super into grading. I mean, you do a little bit, but not a lot.
Right.
I mean, that's something you have for value. Inserts, I think a lot of people think every insert is worthless, and there's actually far more people who collect or put together insert sets than a lot of people realize.
Yes.
And then parallels and even the base cards. And someone like you who builds sets, you're getting that enjoyment out of breaking the product, looking at the cards, enjoying the cards, because that's something that can get lost sometimes in this culture of just chasing hits. Just to look at the base cards, enjoying the look of them, the different pictures, photos, all that stuff. You know, you have the thrill of what you might get that's the valuable item, but you also have the thrill and the entertainment of actually just opening the product and looking at it and enjoying it. And then, like you said, building the set.
Yep.
Stuff like that. So there's, again, I've talked about layers. There's a lot of layers to breaking products and knowing what you're breaking.
I can honestly say and happily say that I've never been, quote unquote, burnt opening. And I've opened a lot of hobby boxes and boxes in my lifetime. It's not like I don't buy that stuff. I do. But I can honestly say I've never felt I've been cheated or burnt on anything I've ever opened because I enjoy the entirety of the product. So I'm very proud to say that.
Yeah, and it depends on product to product too. Of course, you have stuff like Archive Signature Series, which I'm a big fan of. Like, that's like a hit or miss product.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
And I wouldn't open like cases of it, but if you open a few boxes here and there, I mean, I've gotten $200 cards, and sometimes you get a $10 card, and it's just comes with the territory.
Or unless you're Eastern Connecticut sports card, Mike there, you know.
Yeah, you get slammed with the Tony Womack. You know, it's going to happen time to time.
And if I were to buy something like that, that's what I would expect. I'm going to get somebody that it's probably not going to be great, and so I don't go into stuff with high expectations. If I get something, it's like, wow, that's awesome. If I don't, I still have other stuff I can enjoy. So it's not a big deal. It depends
who you do it with. You know? You can also build memories too. Like, okay, I'm sure Mike would have preferred to hit Derek Jeter there, of course.
Yes.
But I mean, we're gonna laugh about the Tony Womack thing for years to come.
We're gonna say we knew where we were. We know who was in the room. We know where we were. You know, it was definitely, we remember where we were at the time. So
yes,
no doubt about it.
Anyway, wanted to get in a little bit on focus, which I think you and me probably, just from talking to you a little bit, I don't know if either of us have great focus.
Oh, I don't have great focus.
You might have better than me, because I literally am involved in virtually every aspect of the hobby. And the focus is baseball and football, and over the last 5 years, I've gone from like 55-45 baseball to football to like 95-5, it seems. Like, I don't do as much football at all compared to when I used to.
Right.
But outside of that, like, I get cards graded, I buy graded cards, I open product, I collect binders, I collect inserts, I collect autographs. I'm not too much into relic cards, and I don't really build sets generally, but I kind of do everything, and I know you're kind of into just about everything as well. So
Yeah, I'm a jack of all trades, master of none. You know.
Do you have any sort of focus, or are you trending in a at least temporary focus right now?
Let me think about that for 1 second here. I'd really like to try to complete some of my incomplete sets. So I'm trying to focus on some of that, try to clean up what I call, when I say garbage, I don't mean that in the little sense of garbage. I mean garbage in the sense that it's stuff I need to take care of, So I'll be perfectly perfect. My 2015 top set, it's not complete. So I want to knock that out and have it complete. So, I would say my focus would be that. And I've been talking to myself in my mind, especially since the national, that I want to try to focus on getting some more vintage. I mean, I have a decent amount of vintage. I wouldn't say I have a crazy amount, but I have a decent amount. I have some nice, sets from the 70s I have completed. So I'm trying to put a little more focus into some vintage cards and obtaining some vintage pieces for my collection. Definitely. But I got to stop, purchasing, blasters every time I go into Target. That's the killer. It's like I'm like Dory from Finding Nemo. Ooh, look at that over there. And I grab it and I buy it. So it's like, okay, there's $20 I can put towards something vintage, and I don't. So that's just how the cookie crumbles, man.
Yeah, it can be, discipline can be a tough thing for sure.
It's hard.
I mean, you go on
definitely
eBay
hard.
And you search auctions ending soon, and you could put in whatever you want. You're going to see so many things going crazy cheap that you're going to be tempted. And all of a sudden you're like, wow, I just spent $80 in 10 seconds. But, like I said, I'm kind of into everything.
Me too.
As of late, though, I've definitely been trying to focus up on adding more rookies, some graded rookies to the collection, guys I missed out on. Certain players that I believe in, kind of trying to take that investment type of approach in it. Not to say that that's why I collect, but you want to think about. I think there's a challenge to it a little bit too. I've seen so many players that I missed out on, and I'm like,
me too.
I should have picked that up a little earlier. So I'm trying
my Trout. I missed out on my Trout totally.
I'm trying to look at players that have that chance. That superstar chance, and trying to kind of get in on it early. And you don't want to overexpand on that, of course.
Right.
But to try and focus in on a few certain players, and then also just trying to add some slabbed rookies, trying to kind of gear towards some potential future Hall of Famers, the guys that are active now. I think that's kind of neat as well. So I've been trying to focus on that a little bit, but of course I'll always be looking at some of the newest Phillies stuff and some of the new products coming out. It's hard to step away from that. So
it is, man. It's tough. I've always been kind of a completist in nature. If I collect something, I have to have it all. Not meaning I have to have every single baseball card that ever was made, but if I'm collecting a set, I want to complete that set. I was a big Star Wars fan, and I collected tons of Star Wars stuff as a kid, and even up into my adult life, I have a pretty sizable Star Wars collection. And I always say I have to get all these figures, to complete this run. And I've retired from that now. I don't collect that stuff anymore. But I just remember back in the day having to have every figure in every run of that series, because if I didn't, I'd be stressing out, and my OCD would kick in and say, "Oh, it's not complete, so it's nothing." So I know absolutely, But that's a retired collection. I don't do that anymore. It's all baseball. It's all sports cards now. That's pretty much what I do. I don't spread myself too thin.
Yeah, you start getting into stuff outside of this. I mean, this hobby's it's big enough. And it's so expansive that it's
very expansive.
It's hard to do a bunch of other stuff as well, but it's still a lot of fun, and I don't know, it's enjoyable. It's just
I love it.
There's literally always something new to get into. There's always something new coming out. There's always something new that will pique your interest. I think that's one of the great things about social media and this hobby with Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and all these different areas. Even Twitter has some sports collectible sports card stuff. I mean, there's so
Yes.
many things to look at and people to follow and follow their collections that there's certain things that can pique your interest and be like, okay, wow, that's something that's cool. I want to look at it. I want to look into this card or that card, and it can enhance your collection a little bit. And another thing I'm into besides the pack pulled autographs, or I've done TTM through the mail autographs over the years, and I haven't been doing that much of that lately. I just haven't had the time to send stuff out, but that doesn't mean that I'm not still adding some of those types of cards to the collection. I'll purchase stuff like that. The PSA DNA stuff is something I think is really cool. I think that's something that's caught on a lot too. A lot of people are getting into the autographed rookie cards, especially.
Yeah, I think that that's definitely a portion of a hobby that's growing, and it's fun, man. I've never been into autographs. Not that and it has nothing to do with me not liking them. And if I can go back to maybe a couple of minutes ago when we were talking about focus, maybe I can say that I am kind of focused in a way, is that I haven't gotten into that part of the hobby, and I can pretty much say I'm not going to, because it just becomes too much for me. So, and I'm okay with that. Hey, I can watch your videos, and if I want to see some autograph stuff, I'll watch a MikeO video, or I'll watch somebody else's videos. I have some autograph stuff that I've pack pulled. I've gotten a few stuff personally autographed, which I like, and I'll always keep, but it's not a focus of my collection. So I guess I can say I do have some focus, and then I'm not completely off the rails.
We just could be more focused. You have some people that are so crazy focused on just one specific player or one specific team. I mean, that's cool, but I
give them credit though. I give them credit. I tell you, I give Carter's kids. I mean, that dude is very focused, and I give him credit because I just don't have that kind of restraint. And Lingua Sports Cards, Brian. I'm not sure if you know his channel, but he's got specific collecting criteria, and it's just wow. I'm kind of blown away by that. I'm impressed by it, because I would never ever have that kind of restraint of having specific criteria that I would need to meet in order for a card to be in my collection. If I like it, I'm buying it. If I think it looks cool, I'm buying it. So I hold that in high respect, because I think it's just amazing that some people can have that kind of restraint. I think it's like I said, it's another aspect of the hobby where it's something different, but something respectable.
Yeah, it's definitely, I guess there's good things and bad things. It's good because you have that focus and you put all your energy, effort, and money into getting specifically what you want, but at the same time, there's just too much I like to.
I know.
I can't give up.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you.
I love the history of the vintage. I love the history of the vintage cards, but I also love the look of the modern stuff. I enjoy it all. I just think it's really fun to kind of to reflect on the past and think about, enjoy the current, and kind of consider and think about the future. I just think there's a lot to do, and I think it'll be interesting to kind of see where the hobby continues to evolve and go to. There's always ups and downs. I feel like we're in a little bit of a boom right now. There's a lot of interest. I see more and more interest in it. The retail market, I think, is doing really good with Targets and Walmarts. I think that is up in the last few years. And I've noticed a lot of people that I know that I'm into sports cards, but they aren't really into it, or they haven't been into it at least in a while. They've maybe been on a really extended break, and now they've shown more interest in it. They've gotten into it. They've asked me questions. Maybe some of them are collecting with kids now. And so I just see an uptick in interest in the card market. So it'll be interesting to see what goes. I know obviously vintage stuff is just continuing to fly up. But it'll be interesting where that is in 50 years. I mean, I don't know. We'll be around to see that, but it'll be it's interesting to think about. Obviously Mickey Mantle right now is incredibly popular. And I think a reason he's very popular is because he was an icon of his time. And a lot of people's parents grew up watching him and enjoying him and following his career, I should say, maybe listening on the radio. And they've kind of passed that along. Who will be the Mickey Mantle, in 30 years?
I always think about that. And I know.
Because you think of pre-war cards, nobody, I don't want to say nobody, that sounds extreme, but most people don't care about pre-war players for the most part.
Right.
They have a lot of value because they're extremely rare and difficult to find.
Right.
Because they're so old, they're antiques. But like the specific players, like they don't really get a lot of respect from your general sports fans. It's really a generational thing. So
absolutely,
it's just kind of interesting to think about. Like, I'm so used to like growing up with Ken Griffey Jr. and then it like boggles my mind when there's people who never got to see him play at all.
I know.
Not even at the tail end, like.
I know. Then it makes you feel really old.
So I think that's just something kind of fascinating to think about for the future and where it goes. And I don't know. It's interesting. It's just a great hobby. It's, again, the hobby itself, to me, there's obviously layers that I was harping on before about the hobby, but there's layers to kind of sports. You watch sports, you experience sports, you either go to games or you watch them on television. You watch them with other people, friends, family, you grow up with it. Yep. So there's nostalgia sports alone, and then you add in the collectibles and the cards. So like the cards are connected to the sport. I always find it bizarre when I meet people who really don't actually watch the sports and they collect the cards. And I'm like,
me too.
You collect basketball cards, but you don't actually watch games. Like, why? That's weird to me.
Yeah, it is kind of strange. It's like, what are you collecting for? Are you just collecting for, yeah, absolutely. It's like,
I think there are definitely people who collect just with the dollar signs.
Just for the dollar signs. You invest, yeah, absolutely.
Which is fine.
Yep.
But,
it's part of the hobby, absolutely.
And then, like, there's been some articles I've read about, vintage cards and the crazy prices a lot of stuff's going for. And I guess there's a lot of people who are now investing in cards and they're treating it almost
like a portfolio. They're putting in their portfolio. Yeah.
But then you kind of read about stuff and, there's so many people that are so attached to the sport itself along with the cards and the nostalgic factors that when something like that does hit, it's like the last thing people want to get rid of. They'd rather sell their house than their collection.
I think I'll sell my kids before my collection.
So, I mean, it's a fascinating hobby. I don't even know if I'm making a point. I think I'm just speaking about things right off kind of my mind, just things that are going through the head.
I think that's a good. There's nothing wrong with that. That's a good thing. Yeah, I think people like to hear honesty, and sometimes the candid stuff is well received because it's coming from the heart. Because sometimes the candid stuff is just you're not thinking about it; it's just coming from your feelings. So I think I like that. So I think it's.
But
good.
I just think it's fun to think about the hobby in different ways. Sometimes you got to take a step back and think about it. Because I know I have a friend of mine who he's collected a little bit when he's a kid. Never like super serious. Like would buy some packs, open them, put them in a sheet, look at them once in a while. Didn't really like follow like products coming out and stuff like that. And then he was getting into them a little bit a couple years ago. And then his daughter was born. And then like I remember a comment from his wife like saying something like, "Why would you want those? You're not a little kid." And I remember just thinking, man, you just do not get it.
Yeah,
and I know there's a lot of people out there. I'm like, first of all, leave the guy alone, let him do what he wants. But it's like I think he wanted to start, just a little bit, opening some packs here and there, enjoying them, and then I think he had the hope of getting his daughter into it at least a little bit, kind of get her to maybe collect some Red Sox cards. He's a Red Sox fan, so maybe you wouldn't be best friends with him, but he's a good guy.
That's all right.
But I think the thing is, though, you do have some people who just think like baseball cards and they associate it with little kids. And there's a lot of people who don't realize like the actual extreme value of certain cards. Like there's you and me are nickel and diamond stuff compared to some of these 5,000, $10,000, $20,000 card, like insane value.
Oh yeah.
It goes beyond that as well.
Absolutely.
But it's big business. There's a lot of money wrapped up in the hobby itself. But, I think some people sometimes get themselves intimidated by some of that crazy stuff. And it's like, that was kind of one of the things I wanted to talk about with you is like scale back. You can collect and enjoy this hobby and you don't have to worry about.
Oh, yes, you can. Absolutely. Yeah.
$2 million Mickey Mantle card. Like,
Right.
just be realistic. You know, you can't afford it, but you
I
can
mean,
enjoy the hell out of this hobby for sure.
I mean, just look what Topps, Topps, you can just go to Topps. They put out the opening day stuff. That's very obtainable for a kid who wants to get into it. This year, the Topps Big League, very obtainable, very accessible to younger collectors. So I think, that's a great way to get kids into the hobby. It's tough. I don't know if we'll ever see it back like it was in the 50s and the 60s with kids going to the store and buying packs with their pocket change. That's obviously not going to happen again. But, I think it's great that companies are recognizing that they do have to somehow kind of target some stuff for the kids. It can't be all just high-end stuff. Because when we are gone, the hobby has to keep moving if it's going to stay viable. It has to keep moving, and who's going to move it along but the younger generation? So there's stuff there for everybody, and I think the stuff looks great. So Big League looked great this year. I think they did a really, really fine job with that.
Yeah, and it's good checklist too. It's loaded.
Yeah,
with Ohtani, and I believe Acuna's in there, and Gleyber Torres. So you have guys like that, and that could be a kid's first Ronald Acuna. And,
exactly.
Who knows what the kid's future is? Right now, he looks like all world. But we'll see. Maybe 25 years from now, there's a kid who got started in this hobby because he got a Ronald Acuna rookie out of an affordable pack.
Yep.
And of course, these products are cheap, so they're geared towards kids and families, I think. And it's just a starting point. As people get into the hobby, if they continue with it, they're going to naturally evolve and get into more stuff. They might gear towards vintage, or they might gear towards more expensive or more premium products. It all just kind of depends. So
they're the gateway drugs of baseball cards.
But Mike, it's been a great time chatting with you. We've been going for 45 minutes. Just want to
time flies.
Want to get any final thoughts you have on the state of the hobby for either yourself or just what you see with the kind of the state of the hobby right now. And if you have any advice to collectors out there, feel free to share it now.
Yeah, I mean, I think the hobby is in a great place. I was really, lucky this year to get to the National, and seeing the turnout at the National, I was very impressed by that in terms of like this. For years, we heard that the hobby is dying. It's going to go away. It's going to disappear. It's dead. And from what I saw this year at the National, I do not think the hobby is dead. I think it's doing very well. And the more we can get the younger people into it, the more we can keep it fun. I think that's a big part of it. The fun of it, the camaraderie of it. With especially now with the advent of YouTube and the videos and the communities on there and on Facebook. I just think that sport card collecting is alive and well, and I just want to just tell everybody, just buy what you like what you buy, and have fun doing it, man, because that's what it's all about, is having fun and talking about it with other people. This is great, Meg. This is a great thing that you do. I had a great time talking about this, and I hope you keep doing these forever and ever, man.
Hopefully more and more often.
Yeah, that's all right.
Something you mentioned was the community aspect and talking about it, and something you hear oftentimes about people who take a break from the hobby is, what, my friends kind of got older, they stopped collecting, I didn't really have anyone to share it with. That's not an excuse anymore, because you have people all over the world. You can chat and communicate immediately with people all across the country and honestly all across the world that also collect. So you have other people who are collecting, and this hobby is fun to be involved in.
It is.
It's even more fun if you have someone to share it with. So you have a whole world out there, and in these current times we live in with social media, there's no reason not to get involved and to enjoy the hobby and share it with other people, because there's great communities of collectors out there. And I know these online communities are a very small portion of those out there who collect, but might as well continue to build the communities, because I think it's something that is really I think it's really good for others. I think when people get involved in it, I think it enhances their enjoyment of the hobby, and then you can just kind of go on and either get advice or get inspiration from others, or at the very least, just make friends and acquaintances that enjoy this hobby as well. So you have someone else to kind of go, hey man, did you see this card? You have someone to talk to about it.
There's nothing better than that. There really isn't. You get all jazzed, and there's definitely nothing better than that.
All right, Mike, it was a blast chatting with you. I appreciate you taking some time out of your evening to take part in this podcast, Hobby Talk with MikeO. This is available on iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, and of course YouTube as well. You can check out Mike's YouTube channel, Hitman23. I'll post a link down below in the YouTube portion of this. If you guys are listening somewhere else, you can shoot over to YouTube, type in Hitman23, check out his channel, follow his collection. Have yourselves a great one. Talk to you soon.